Open your ears and lube up your butthole. It's time for the What Do We Call It podcast. Now, here's your host. It's Jmann. Welcome to the What Do We Call It podcast. I'm Jmann, and with me today is my friend
Mark.
Mark is here because we have known each other for a while, and he has an interesting story to tell about himself. He is one of the millions of Americans that have opted to have gastric bypass surgery.
Yes, I have. It's been an adventure.
So we have known each other for, what year did you start going up north with your folks?
1994.
Okay, so, math, that's 22 years.
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, I've known him that long. I didn't even realize it was that long. So, funny thing is, I had the idea for this episode last time I had number one fan Tim on, and we weren't sure if Mark wanted to do it because a lot of people, when they hear about gastric bypass surgery, they want you to blow sunshine up their butt. They might know somebody who's curious and thinking about it, and they want to hear the positives. The unfortunate nature is there are some negatives, and you shouldn't sugarcoat this shit for anybody. You should tell them the God's honest truth, even if it's ugly at times, because this is a life-altering decision.
Yeah, it's made a major transformation in my life.
When you were at your largest, you weighed how much?
I was 491 pounds.
And you're how tall?
6'2".
Okay. Now, did the doctor ever tell you you're X amount of pounds too heavy for your heart and it's working too hard or anything like that?
All through my basically life, I've always had my doctor saying, well, you're not too fat, but you're obese, you should lose weight, that you should, consider gastric bypass. And it's something that I pretty much voted against because I didn't want to be cut open for no reason. I wanted, to be something medically wrong with me to actually get cut open. But being in our best friend's wedding really was a big eye-opener for me on the whole situation.
And that conversation actually kind of took place in my kitchen that night that Tim messaged you asking if you would do the show. Is I mentioned, I just saw him and how he looks now on Facebook for the first time, and I was like shocked at the transformation.
Yeah, considering from, I don't want to say the load that I was to, I guess I'm not nearly as big of a load, but I'm definitely no toothpick by any means.
And the thing with Tim's wedding is that you and I, were at the tux place picking up our tuxes at the same time.
Yep.
And we were in adjacent dressing rooms, and you were having a hell of a time getting some of the articles to fit properly. The shirt was too damn small, and we were kind of in a pinch due to the timing. So
it was definitely an eye-opener. I had to basically try to call my best friend and tell him that I couldn't be the best man in his wedding because, I was not able to because of lack of trying to find clothes to fit. It was heartbreaking.
And I think that was the first time that I really had broached the topic with you in person about the surgery. My mom had mentioned that you were finally kicking the tires on it because you said that you would, you'd diet, you'd kill yourself in the gym, and all the cardio didn't seem to make a dent.
I don't know exactly, what was up with my body. I would try to kill myself in the gym, trying to work out, thinking that, the harder that you push yourself, the more quote-unquote rewards that you're going to get. But I guess it all kind of went by the wayside because it didn't seem like anything that I did was ever helping.
And now it's been how long since the surgery?
It's been a year as of June 24th.
And you're down to what weight now?
I'm 275 pounds, so it's 181, 182 pounds I fluctuate in there. Since surgery.
That's Mark's wife, Tammy, who's also sitting in with us right now. We didn't give her a formal introduction, but she's just kind of hanging out, seeing how this goes.
Yeah, I can tell you one thing, without the support of my friends, my wife, and all the medical people, I guess I'd probably be, 600-700 pounds or 6 foot under by now.
And every time you post an update, whether it's a photo or, hey, here's the date, I'm down this many pounds, I'm at this weight, just unwavering positivity from everybody that knows you online. I noticed that you're getting a lot of attaboys and people support you and saying, keep up the good work. And
I know, I really blew everyone away because I'm not one that really likes to take pictures of myself or draw attention to myself. I like to kind of stay in my own little, I don't want to say happy place, but stay on my own little side and, not try to be too outgoing and say, look at me, look what I've done. So when I posted the wedding picture and then I had my stepson Jacob take a picture of me in the living room because I had a bunch of people going, well, why don't you ever, take a picture of yourself? And I finally broke down and said, kid, can you please take a picture of me so I could post some pictures online so people could see my success that I'm having. And I think I had 130 some likes on Facebook. I've had a lot of people saying, congrats. I've had a lot of people, really proud of me. And for 99% of everyone I know has been happy. And I have lost some friends over this because I quote unquote changed.
why? Because you lost the weight?
Because I've lost the weight. I don't have the same eating styles that I used to. So I rarely ever go out to eat because a normal meal will last me 2 to 3 meals, where a normal meal for one person usually is a meal for them.
So on average, how many, ounces of food does it equate to you being full?
I usually eat roughly 6 to 7 ounces of food at a meal. And for people who can't fathom that, that's literally 3/4 of a cup of food or a half a can of pop, or however you really want to look at it.
So you're always having leftovers.
Oh, hell yeah.
That's picking you up on both mics, don't worry.
Okay.
We're always having leftovers. Our fridge is never empty.
And that's one thing now that I struggle with is leftovers, because if I have to eat the same food 3 times in a week, I start to get really pissy because I get really sick of it, and then I start shutting down. Meaning, I don't get abusive, I don't, whatever, but I just start getting into a really bad attitude because I just get sick of having a lack of change of what I'm eating.
Do you feel like some of those people that are negative about this are somewhat jealous, or it's just a lack of social interaction that they kind of feel like you don't have time for them anymore?
I think some people might be jealous for reasons, and then I think other people just don't know how to
cope with what I've done. It's where they're used to seeing me eating all the foods that they enjoy, and now that they see my lifestyle has changed, where I've given up, fast foods. I've given up deep fried foods. I've basically given up 99% of everything that's bad for you. I've given it up due to it's something I wanted to do to prove to myself that I'm going to stick with my choices and stick through, the surgery that I did. And I don't want to be one of the persons that a year down the road is going to gain everything back and then some.
Well, I got to say, when we were at the state fair, I was sitting there bullshitting with my friend and his brother, and I just noticed this blue shirt in my peripheral vision off to the left. And it's the state fair, so it's nuts to butt crazy with people. You don't look around all the time like a wild horse does, trying to, assess if there's people trying to talk to you or threats, danger. And finally, I'm just okay, this guy's just, I'm oh shit, okay. I had not seen you in person in at least a year. Maybe longer.
I think the last time, honestly, was Tim's wedding.
Was it?
I think so.
I feel like I saw you guys at my parents' house after that, though.
Oh, yeah, you did once.
But that was prior to the surgery, I think. So, I had not seen you in person. I was just holy shit.
Yep.
And there were you, and there was your dad. So, I hadn't seen any of you in a while. But speaking of your dad, what's your old man got to say about this?
It's still hard for him to wrap his head around what I've done. He sees me all the time, but he still tries to give me the foods that he knows that I don't eat anymore, or he keeps telling me, well, you can have this, but, in moderation. Well, the foods and stuff that I've given up, I don't ever want again, because, like I said, it's something that I want to prove to myself that I can go without. And it's one of those things where I'm afraid of, if the whole moderation thing, where if I eat, let's say, a handful of Doritos, what is it going to lead to? Next thing I know, I'm going to eat like the small kids bag with myself, or I'm going to, graduate up to the big bag, and it's just something that I'm choosing to just stay away from.
Because that's a good point, because my friend that I was at the fair with, Rick, had a friend that had this back in high school. He had the same issue. He was always just a big guy. And according to Rick, in the 15 years since he's had the surgery, he's gained almost all the weight back just from shitty eating and drinking all the time. Because, when he first told me this guy had the gastric bypass, it was like 3 years ago, and I'm like, he had that surgery? He's still such a big guy. And he's gotten bigger yet. So over time, I guess if you fall back into bad eating habits or overstuffing yourself, because you almost have to work to get a normal person's amount of food in, your stomach will stretch back over time.
Not with with normal gastric bypass. There was 4 different options for what they did. Like, the simplest one was the lap band, where they go in and just put really a band around your stomach to make you seem full with the amount of food that you're eating that's allowed to go by the band. But because I had my stuff done at Mayo no longer does that surgery because of the lack of success, because the band slips, or they have problems with it. There was another surgery which was called the Roux-en-Y. My cousin had that one done, and it's basically they cut 90% of your stomach out, so your stomach's like the size of a walnut.
Jesus.
But they leave like a lot of small intestine left. And so with that one, you could literally re-stretch your stomach out back to its normal size due to a lot of eating and eating stuff that you're not supposed to. For me, I had the most evasive one that Mayo does, which is now kind of biting me in the ass, because not a lot of the doctors around the cities where we live have seen that surgery before, which is called the duodenal switch, where basically they take, if you think of your stomach to be like a bone-in pork chop, they take basically all the meat section out of your stomach, so it just leaves like a tube left. And they basically take your small intestine. I have roughly 100 centimeters, which, if you think about it, isn't much, of small intestine left that works. Everything is still there, but it's all rerouted. It's with the lack of having really a small intestine, which your small intestine absorbs all the food and calories, nutrients, and all your other fun stuff. With it being so little, my body doesn't have much of a chance of absorbing a lot of food, or a lot of calories and fat and all the other crap that everyone eats.
Right.
So basically, it's kind of like a freight train just going through my body, where it doesn't absorb much.
Do you have to supplement like different foods that you normally wouldn't go out of your way to eat to get more nutrient-rich product through your system because of that?
Well, now it's like, for me now, I have to take 2 multivitamins every day for the rest of my life, just to get like the irons and all the other stuff that you would normally get from food. I have to take calcium supplements twice a day for the rest of my life, because my body can't absorb food fast enough to get like calcium from dairy and cheese and all the other stuff. I now have to take a B12. I'm supposed to take a B12 injection, but I have a phobia of needles. I'm 6'2", big guy, and I'm just a complete wuss.
And you have large tattoos.
I got multiple tattoos, but it's something about that needle going all the way in. So now I'm doing a B12 pill every day, and I'll be having to do that for the rest of my life. It's one of those things where B12, if you don't get enough of it, basically will start causing irreversible nerve damage, and it will kill you if you don't get enough B12 in your diet and whatnot?
Two thoughts. I used to be the same way with needles until I started getting tattoos. But my trick when I have to go get shots is I just do this. I'm like, all right, I'm going to turn my head. You're not going to tell me when the needle's going in. Just do it. Surprise me.
Yeah.
And then it happens, and I'm just like, okay, it's almost over. It's in. Oh, and it's out.
Well, I mean, it's like when I had to get my tetanus shots and stuff in my arm, it doesn't bother me. But for where the B12 has to go, it's either in your leg or in your stomach. Is the only two spots. And so my problem is, I mean, and my wife was helping me with giving me the shots, and I started, like when I got the first shot in the hospital, I mean, I was still half doped out of my gourd from painkillers and whatnot, so it didn't bother me getting all the shots and crap that I had to get. But as we got home, my wife, Tammy, was able to give me a shot. But then I started getting some really bad anxiety, and then I started sensing when the shot would have to come. And like she would she would give me the shot in my leg. So when she'd grab my leg to give me the shot, then I started anticipating more and more, and I ended up trying to get anti-anxiety pills, which made it even worse. So now, luckily for me, I can take a B12 pill every day.
You should have just got him when he was sleeping.
People had told me that, but I said I fear for my life because I don't want to wake him up.
I suppose you got like a half cc needle going in your leg when you're fast asleep. He might thrash about.
And I was like, no, I'm not going to surprise him. I'm not going to do it when he's sleeping. But I'm really thankful he can take the pill. That's, yeah. Needles and Mark are not a fun thing to watch.
So like when you were talking with the different methods of the bypass surgeries and the lap band, it's kind of like when I had to have my hernia surgery. You know, everywhere around here that I researched in the state, even down at Mayo, they use that goddamn surgical mesh.
Why?
And all the horror stories about the side effects of that, like burning sensation down your leg if it traps a nerve in your groin, and just scar tissue growing over it, and it can cause the mesh to untack and roll up inside of you, and your body, it's not natural. So I went all over the place on the internet trying to find all different types of different surgeries, and everywhere around here they just we just use the mesh. And no matter how many concerns I voiced, well, we don't use the kind of mesh that, you know, people are class action suing for right now. Well, no shit, Sherlock, but still, the idea of having something unnatural in your body, which led me to finding different surgical centers throughout the country that utilize different methods. And what I settled on was a guy down in Florida. YouFirstHealth.com is their website. You think I remember his name right now? It's Dr. Robert something or other. I don't know. Fucking awesome guy. The method he uses was developed by a doctor from India who came here and taught him this. He's the only certified surgeon in that part of the country to use this method. And what they did is they cut me open down here in my groin. They took a thin layer of my fascia, of my abs, like a thin slice layer, like the way they chop the goddamn roast beef at Old Country Buffet. They were at the deli, the thin slice. Yeah. So they did that, and they fold it back over once they push in the hernia, and then they sew it back down with multiple layers of dissolvable stitches. And, you know, it's been 2 years now, and I've had no issues. Like, my own natural biological material held me back together while it healed naturally, and the scar tissue took care of the rest. And yeah, I never had to go get any stitches removed or anything, but I know now that I never have to worry about any of the side effects of that mesh inside of me. My uncle, my godfather, had similar surgery, but he had the mesh. And he's like, well, I haven't had any problems. I just had to go one time to just get like a small adjustment because one of the spots came untacked. I'm like, that's exactly what I don't fucking want. Going under the knife. It's like I took a month off of work and ate up almost all my EMB to do that, my medical benefit time. And yeah, so a lot of people will just go to the doctor, it seems, and because you expect the doctor to be, is a medical professional. They went to college for years. They're smart. They know what they're doing. I'm not saying they all get like paid under the table to use a certain method, but they've all kind of agreed on the mesh hernia repair because it's quick, it's easy, it's the most frequently performed surgery in America. But that's like the one standard. Somebody does what I had done. Another one uses like old wire to like sew you back together. It's called the Schuldeis method.
There's
options.
It makes you kind of think, though, if some of the doctors or clinics are getting kickbacks, like you're saying, from using said mesh or said procedures instead of doing it the way they should be doing it.
Well, it's definitely they got together, and for the sake of making it easy so anybody can just jump right into it who's a general surgeon, they have this one uniform standard. But the problem is with all the side effects of that, they can claim it's safe all they want. I was skeptical as hell. And I went to go see the surgeon once, and we made the surgery. I went to go see him again because I was getting skittish. And he's like, you'll be fine, you'll be fine. The next day, I canceled my fucking surgery, booked my flight down to Fort Myers, and scheduled my appointments down at U First Health. I was like, screw this. And one of my guys at work who's above me, he's like, no, a lot of people would just go with whatever the doctor says. And I tell people about your story, kind of how you found a different method via the internet that you were comfortable with, and you didn't just settle for what the doctor told you. You found something that you would be comfortable with that you thought had the least amount of risk. And I did. It was great. I was like driving a car within a week.
Yeah, I guess for, after seeing the perspective that you're talking about, I definitely wouldn't blame you for doing what you did.
Well, it was my first surgery too, so it's fucking nerve-wracking thing. They're going to cut me open. And I got to worry about, they're going to play around with my guts. It's just like a bulge. And the whole reason I got it wasn't from like some heavy lifting accident. It was from teetering over the ledge of the crib to kiss Juice goodnight when she was like 6 months old. I had a bad habit of leaning on the fucking rail of the crib because I couldn't get down low enough. And apparently I strained enough material down there that I stretched it out. And over time, all the working out and stuff I did and bending and twisting, like jogging and stuff, it worked its way into being a hole.
Yeah, it's funny when, hearing you talk about your doctor. It's when I was down at Mayo, they basically sat me down with a quote-unquote general surgeon, not, any doctor per se. And they gave me kind of what my options were compared to my BMI and, how fat I was. And they said, certain doctors suggested the Roux-en-Y, but which would have, had a more of a success rate for me to be able to eat too much and stretch out my stomach back out, and be able to gain back where I was. Or then they had a certain couple of doctors who suggested the surgery I had because it's the highest success rate of not gaining the weight back. It gave me the highest success rate of weight loss. But like I said, it was the most invasive that they do. And with me picking that surgery led to I developed gallstones. The story was after my surgery, they put me on some pills that was supposed to help counteract with my gallbladder so I don't get gallstones. There was a 93% success rate, after the 6 months of these pills that I wouldn't get gallstones. Well, I guess I was part of the 7% club because I ended up getting gallstones. And because of the surgery, I went to my doctor down here, and they gave me to a surgeon down here who basically I went in, she looked at me, asked me my symptoms, and I told her, and she basically told me, we're not going to touch you here because we haven't seen, that surgery much down here, and we don't want to risk screwing up something that the surgeons did there. So basically I spent $185 for a 5-second consultation that went nowhere.
Fucking jeez. It's like my surgeon guy up here, $20 to see him each time for the copay. God knows what he charges my insurance company. But, I went and saw him twice. Most people would just go see him like, oh, yeah, okay, yeah, you're going to feed me a bunch of bullshit, and I'm going to go home and feel safe, and then you're going to cut me open. And I was like, this guy's just... It's almost like he was giving me the used car salesman act, where they're just trying to, everything's going to be fine, and don't you worry.
Just smooth it over, and then...
They want you in and out of there quick and dirty so they can get more fucking people going. And the general surgeons do so many goddamn surgeries. That's the thing. They have one partial area of expertise, but they're good enough to do multiple different kinds of surgical procedures. And you wonder, like I said, hernias are the most frequent and common. they're pretty easy. And since they have this uniform method, it's hard to fuck it up. But, once I got reading more into what I was going to have done, I was like excited because it sucked. It sucked. I bought not like a girdle, but I bought a hernia belt.
Yep.
That I would wear. It was like wearing a goddamn jock strap. And it had these flat pads that went down over the front of my pubic area so I could still like jog and work out, and it would hold that shit. Now, some people wear that all the time. I didn't want to look like I had a goddamn diaper on, but I wore that thing. So when I knew that I had it figured out, I was excited. I went down there. I had my pre-op physical, and it went smoothly. He's like, hey, here's my trainee. He's new. By the way, drop your pants. I'm like, all right. There it is, boys. And then like he's like looking and he's pressing around. I had like a tiny minuscule bulge. And then he takes his thumb. He's like, let me see something. He puts his thumb on the hernia bulge. He wiggles it back and forth and he pushes in. I'm like, ah! He popped it back in just to see if it would, to make sure that I didn't have like an incarcerated bowel, which is an emergency. And we're walking out. He's like, well, tomorrow, we'll get this done. You'll be fine. And I'm just kind of rubbing there. He's like, you all right? You have some discomfort? I'm like, well, just, when you were thumbing around in there, I don't normally go pushing on it like that myself. So you didn't warn me first. It just popped, whatever. See you in the morning. And it was great because they had a shuttle come pick us up from the hotel and then drive me to the surgery center and drive me back to the fucking hotel. They got some like duo rate thing going where they work specifically one hotel. So you go there and you get the surgical rate, and then you get the free shuttle back and forth to all your appointments. It's weird. It's like an all-inclusive Sandals Resort package deal to get your fucking hernia taken care of. And the day that I went for the surgery, I was just kind of nervous. I was more worried about being under anesthesia when I got my wisdom teeth pulled in 2006 than I was getting my crotch cut open in 2014.
Well, I guess with age comes wisdom and less fear.
Well, the odds of them fucking killing me at a surgical center here. You hear horror stories of people going to get their wisdom teeth pulled and they fucking die from bleeding out.
Yeah.
I was like, well, you just cut me open for a hernia, so I don't think I'm in too much trouble. And, all the way to walking into the OR, my mindset, I'm like, all right, let's do this shit. Like, cut me open. Let's fix me. Let's do this. I'm excited. Let's rock.
Well, the problem is it kind of gives you a little bit of time to think, too, as you're relieving yourself. Is like, it kind of gives you the thought of, oh, shit, am I making the right decision?
Well, yeah, what you're doing is infinitesimally worse than what I had to go through in terms of getting yourself psyched out and holy Christ, they're going to open me up and dig in my guts.
No, when...
That's not what happened with Mark.
It was literally to the point where I was giving the nurses and orderlies so much crap. One of them was threatening to push me down one of the hills down in Rochester on the gurney. I'm like, make sure it's a steep hill because I like to go fast.
Yeah.
So, I guess with the way I cope with stress or whatever is I like to joke around and make light of whatever. So,
and I'm the same way.
Basically when I was going to have my surgery, they ended up getting a couple emergencies before me, so we were able to watch a few movies on the TV there. And then they started watching my favorite movie, which is Finding Nemo. 36-year-old loves kids' movies.
Well, who doesn't go to the hospital to enjoy the cinema?
Well, so it sucked because after a couple of movies, I was kept asking the nurses if they could bring in some popcorn while I wait, after I can't have food that day.
Right.
And so we finally started Finding Nemo, and we get like 4 minutes into the movie, and the nurse is like, all right, let's go. I'm like, go where? She goes, we're going to go back for surgery. I'm like, bullshit, we just started Finding Nemo. You can't just take me from this movie. And so she starts hauling me down the hall, and of course they ask you, a million times, what's your name, date of birth? And after the second time she asked me that, I started giving her aliases. So I'm starting.
Jesus.
So she's like, what's your name? I'm like, Carlos. She goes, Mark, that's not your name. I'm like, well, if you know my name, why the hell do you keep asking
They're
me?
trying to gauge how cognizant you are, because weren't they doping you up at that point with a drip?
No, not yet.
Oh.
They were just bringing him to the OR to get him
No,
prepped.
they were bringing me back to another room where the anesthesiologist started to prep me and get me whatever. So she starts bringing me down the hall, and she's like, you're starting to piss me off. I'm going to push you down the hill. I'm like I said, make sure it's a steep hill because I like to go fast.
Yeah, but having that dark sense of humor just kind of takes some of the stigma away of your having surgery. I like that people that work at hospitals have good senses of humor because it totally takes you out of the experience you're having, whether positive or negative. Like, obviously, we had, I'm going to throw up the air quotes, positive experiences. We were having elective procedures.
Yep.
But, people that go there that are all fucked up from a car crash. I'm not saying they're like joking around like a bunch of goddamn party clowns, but they keep it light enough to try to relax you, and I appreciated that. Now, I fucked with the guy that had to give me my IV. I don't know what level of nursing he was at, but I just figured they all could do it. So there's all these old lady nurses that were like in their 40s, 50s, and 60s, and this guy was like maybe 37, 38, and he starts kind of getting nervous. I'm like, why do you look like you're sweating here? He's like, well, we got to put in your IV track. And, I mean, one of them can do it, or you could have me do it, but they have a lot more experience. I just haven't done it that often. And I laid my arm on the table. I'm like, all right, buddy. Practice makes perfect. You can't walk till you crawl. So let's do this. And he's like, what? I'm like, come on, Jamie, stick the fucking needle in my arm. And they're laughing their asses off that I'm putting him on the spot like that. And he starts sweating profusely as he's trying to get it in. I'm like, okay, take a breath, bud, because look at how veiny I am. I'm vascular. You're going to have a cakewalk getting this shit in my arm. And he did. I'm like, see, piece of cake. And he's like, yeah. It was my opportunity to fuck with them a little, to keep things light. And I appreciated that they had a sense of humor about it.
So, yeah, now that once they, like you were talking about, with the anesthesiologist, they brought me back. He comes in. Of course, they have to ask you your name, phone number, date of birth, and all the other fun stuff. And he starts, getting the stuff out, and if you look at the veins in my hand, they come and go. And so he's like, well, we'll try sticking you in your hand. I'm like, dude, don't even bother. Go right into my arm. I said, I got like the perfect cocaine veins. Perfect. They stick out like, a mile and whatever, even though I don't do drugs.
Well, yeah.
And he's like, no, we'll try to stick it in your hand. So after 3 attempts, I'm like, hey, doc, how you just stick the damn thing in my arm? It'll be a lot easier on you. He looked at my veins. He's like, Jesus, you were right.
I'm sure at that point, too, he just wanted to fucking stab you in the arm for saying that thing.
And so they get all that stuff in. And so he gets the IV in. I didn't get any drugs yet at that point. He goes and leaves. He's like, well, it'd be, about 20 minutes before you get back for your surgery. So I'm like, okay. I start, finding Nemo again because I wanted to try to get, through a good part of the movie. And next thing you know, 5 minutes later, damn nurse comes back in. I'm like, sweet, we're going for a ride down the hill? And she's like, no, you're going to surgery, smart ass. I'm like, come on, I just started finding Nemo again. You cannot do this to me.
It's kind of a mind fuck.
Pretty much.
Why do you keep dangling the carrot if you're not going to let me have a bite?
Pretty much. So they finally get me into the OR, and there's 20 people there waiting for you. Everyone introduces yourself. The nurse that brought me back there, and she's like, okay, this is Mark, a.k.a. Carlos, in case he uses his alias. And she's like, he's the biggest smart ass you're ever going to meet, so I highly suggest knocking him out fast. So the anesthesiologist comes over to me, and he's like, oh, you ready to go to sleep? I'm like, oh, hey, doc, I hope you got enough drugs to tranquilize a horse, because that's probably what it's going to take.
I suppose the level of anesthesia knock you out versus me, because I'm 5'10", and I weigh about $180. So, God, that had to be multiple cc's in the needle of liquid to get you out.
I don't know. It's one of those things where they give you the shot, and they're like, they put that mask over your face, and they're like, all right, count backwards from 10. It's like, I don't even see why they tell you to do that. Just say count to like 2, because that's as far as you're going to go anyways.
I didn't have the mask, and I didn't want to do the whole counting backwards thing. I'm like, I'm just going to close my eyes, wait a minute, and then try talking to me. If I don't answer you, it's probably a pretty good sign I'm out. That was back in 2006 with the Wisdoms. With this one, I'm like, okay, I'm just going to kind of close my eyes and go to sleep. I don't know. Talk amongst yourselves. Give it a minute or two, and then go to work. And then they woke me up. I'm like, okay, well, are we done? Because like coming out of anesthesia, you're all groggy and shit. And both times, wisdoms and my hernia. I'm like, are we done yet? That was my first thought to say out loud. Are we done yet? Like, oh, is this the intermission where you wake me up, ask me a few questions, we have a celebratory drink, then we go back to things? No. You know, and then, did you make any friends in the recovery room? Because I did. I was talky.
I guess when I had my wisdom teeth done, I, was the same way you did. Are we done yet? Whatever, as you're trying to mumble through, 8 pounds of gauze in your yap.
Yeah.
But no, I actually had a problem coming out of anesthesia with this surgery. I have severe sleep apnea, so they had me on my stupid mask, and I was apparently, according to my wife, I was in the recovery room for a little over 3.5 hours.
Jesus Christ.
They couldn't get him to wake up.
Like I said, I think
that's promising.
Like I said, I think the doctor used enough to tranquilize the buffalo or something. You never know.
What did that do to your nerves?
Huh?
What did that do to your nerves?
It drove me absolutely nuts because I was given a timeline and I was kind of following that timeline. And then as the night went on, because he didn't go into surgery until about 3-4 o'clock, I was starting to get nervous. I'm like, okay, is he out of recovery yet? Oh, no, we'll let you know.
That, and it was like a 3-hour surgery while they're in there playing around.
And so about 8 o'clock, I'm like, okay, he should be up here by now. And they're like, okay, we're going to find out what's going on. And no one would really give me answers until about 9:30. They're like, well, they were having a hard time getting him to wake up. I'm like, now you're telling me? Like, you couldn't have told me this at 8 o'clock?
Well, they could have told you earlier, but it might have offset a lot of panic, and they didn't want to cause alarm if they didn't need to. I'm sure that, I guess, common is a weird word to use. Common that some people don't come out of it as easily.
No.
I guess the weird thing is laying in, the gurney or whatever, you're laying there, the nurse is talking to you. You can hear everything that they're saying. You can hear them talking in the background. You can hear everything. You can't open your eyes. You can't speak. It's kind of like the music video from Metallica where the guy's just laying in the bed. He can't say anything. He can't do anything, but he can hear everything that they're telling you. And it's like, I'd open my eyes. The nurse is like, oh, there he is. And then right back closed. And it's just, he's just laying there like a limp noodle, not doing anything.
I was worried that it was going to be too cold in the operating room because they're down in my groin area. There were a lot of ladies working there. I didn't want like shrinkage and then here's my junk. And then it's just like trying to crawl back up inside of me from the temperature in there.
You didn't want to show them the Jmann legacy and have it go away?
Well, it's a grower, not a shower. So I don't go around like with flashcards like, hey, huh? How about that? Let's wait until it's at full mast, and then we'll talk. Then, a sword by itself in the sheath is not impressive, but when you pull it out and you eye the blade, that's when it really sets in.
Whoa, coming in hot.
After the wisdoms, and the thing with the wisdom teeth is it was like a dental surgery center, and they just wheeled me into some room and sat me on a bench and like, here's some apple juice. And you try to drink it, and your like face is numb. So it's like, it goes in your mouth and then it just runs down your lip onto your fucking pants. So there's like bloody apple juice on my lap. I'm like, well, this is fucking retarded. And there's my dad standing there. He was with me both times because I could like take a friend down to Florida, but it's like, hey, how about we go down to a state where most people have vacations and fun and go to like theme parks, and then we'll just hang out at a hotel for 2 days. And then you can watch basic cable with me while I sit there and hold my wound.
Ow.
But coming out of it at the surgical center after the hernia, I'm sitting there, and there's like multiple people, The doctor's going surgery to surgery, and there's other surgeons doing this and other shit going on. It's a surgical center. It's not like the hernia center or anything. So there's different people in there for different things, and there's some guy in a bed next to me. And I'm to the point where I'm getting out of the bed into the wheelchair, and he's asking me questions about how I feel. So it's weird, like in the recovery room, you start talking to strangers about the surgeries you both just had. Mm-hmm. And there's this guy, Lee, and I kept in touch with him via Facebook. But he had to have like a double one done.
Oof.
Yeah, which I got to tell you, after hernia surgery, the average length of time it took me to get out of bed to go pee was 8 minutes the day after.
Holy God, you had to plan your peeing.
I basically had to, the second I thought I might have to go, I am sitting there looking around like, all right, am I going to pull on a sheet? Am I going to grab the side table? Because they don't want you to engage your abs or your core. And just about everything. Putting your foot down. There it is. Grabbing something and pulling. Yeah, there it is. So I had to like curl into this half-retarded fetal position and try rolling different ways. And it sucked because every way fucking hurt a different amount. And like they tried to give me a prescription for Percocet, but like I totally against any opiates going to my body, even for pain relief. So I'm just like, I'm going to do ibuprofen. And the guy was like, you're shitting me.
Who the f*** is this guy?
No, I got 800 milligram ibuprofen back in the hotel room. We'll be good. It worked, but still it was hell getting out of that bed. And I can't be like, Dad, grab my hands and pull, because then I'm clenching my whole body and I don't want to pop a stitch.
Yeah. Well, I know for me, I mean, I really didn't wake up in recovery. I basically woke up in my room when they had me on the little bed, and then they were nice enough to get, the fat man size bed because it would be a lot more comfortable. So after, having 3-4 hours of surgery, and then like a couple hours later trying to figure out how the hell you're going to stand up while you're, doubled over in pain trying to get into the other bed. And
I suppose you had to pee into the jug and poop into the thing, huh?
no, they had the old tube up the wiener, and
they cast you?
know,
Ah, Jesus Christ, I'm
And they
glad I
had-
never had to do that.
they had me so bound up with painkillers because of the severity of my surgery and all that stuff. I mean, it was probably 3 days before I even went to the bathroom.
Yeah, see,
Okay.
I got into town on Sunday. I had my pre-op on a Monday. I had my surgery on Tuesday. Then I had a day off Wednesday. Then I had my post-op on Thursday morning, and then we were flying out. That's how quick this whole ordeal went. And like you're saying, they want you to poop. They want to make sure everything's functioning. Mm-hmm. So, like, I don't know. I think I took 3 shits within 24 hours after my surgery, and I went in for the post-op, and like, well, how are you doing on the bowel movements? I'm like, oh, I'm pooping like a champ.
Roadhouse.
I'm good, man. I've already shit 3 times. They're like, really? Wow, great. And then they're looking at this, and the guy, the phlebologist that had like done all the blood work ahead of time, he's like, oh, let me see. Which it's weird that you're pulling your fucking waistband down for another man behind closed doors. Like, oh yeah, let's look at my surgical site. And he's like, oh, that looks pretty good. You don't have any bruising. He's like, dude, you're doing awesome. Well, I got home, and then the bruising happened, so it looked like I took a fucking 99-mile-an-hour Nolan Ryan pitch to the groin.
Are you picturing it?
Nothing like battle scars.
How many days were you in the hospital?
I was supposed to be in 3, but on the 3rd day, they basically gave me the option of, well, would you like a sponge bath, or do you want to get up and try to take a shower? Well, I guess I don't want anyone to fuss over me, so I got up and tried to take a shower. My wife was in there trying to help me stand and try to wash up as best I could without, rubbing all the surgical sites and everything. And after a very interesting shower where you don't know if you're going to fall over because you're dizzy, or you just basically lost all bit of energy you had because you get up and walk around a little bit, but to stand for, 10 minutes trying to take a shower, trying to wash up, it was basically took every bit of energy out of that I had. And I wanted to go home that day, but the nurse highly suggested that I didn't. So I spent another night in the hospital, which I guess I'm glad I did, just from the point that they kept an eye on me, and I was having a little bit of discomfort because I had one of the, I don't know if it was a muscle or if it was my intestines was bulging out a little bit, so I thought maybe, I was having a reaction to something or something happened. So the morning that I went home, they took a scan of my stomach, and they seen that it was just torn or inflamed muscles because of all the stuff that they went through. And
Yeah.
I mean, even the doctors have came in and looked at it numerous times, have felt it and trying to figure out, what it was. So, I mean, I ended up spending 4 days in the hospital.
So do they go sideways across your abdomen or bisect you?
They actually
Top to
went
Laparoscopic.
laparoscopic.
He's got holes. He doesn't have a cut.
How the fuck do they do all that with 3 tiny holes?
6 holes.
Even still, imagine that. 6 small incisions in your body and all types of tubes and a camera and fucking instruments and Jesus Christ.
Yep. So when they did that, they did 6 holes in my stomach. And then when I went back down to get my gallbladder taken out, they did 4 more holes. So now, yeah, I'm proud owner of 10 holes in your stomach. Looks like I got shot with a 12 gauge.
I suppose it's better than having like the equivalent to like a big C-section scar or something, because where I was going with that is my ex,
The Beast.
I don't know if you know that I call her
The Beast.
but I call her
The Beast.
I've heard.
And so
The Beast
has had 2 C-sections now. And the first time, seeing that scar, they come in and they're like, "Oh yeah, it looks good. Your scar looks beautiful." They say all this shit. To which my friend Nurse Ashley said, "No, they say that to kind of take your mind off if it looks kind of gnarly." And it's not like this big, grotesque fucking bunch of scar tissue. It's a line there, but each time, they cut her side to side to get the babies out. I didn't look at the shit because I wanted no part in seeing her cut open, so I stayed like behind the sheet with her. Because I knew that if I saw something, I might make a face that would send her into a panic. Because I in those instances, I can't hold back. I might be like, "Holy shit, I can see inside of you." And I didn't want to pass out when they're pulling a fucking human being out of another human being. But anyway, yeah, she, after a while, minimal scarring. I think it's like a 4-inch scar. Mine's like maybe 1.5 or 2. I mean, my mom's got like, I joke about this, like an 8-inch purple diagonal fucking reminder of where they cleaved me out of her body. The way they did it in 82 is not the way they did it in 2011 or 2013. So, I mean, you're talking surgical scar. I guess I half expected that you would have like a 3 or 4 inch from your navel up and just a big mass of tissue.
Yep. Well, it looks like I got shot with a 12 gauge.
No, he had 6 holes from the surgery, which is pretty interesting.
I'll be damned.
And thinking, with what all they took out of me, I mean, a huge part of your stomach and, probably a few other things or whatever they took out. I mean, to think all of that could come out of a 1/4-inch hole, it's something to think about.
I suppose they just kind of had a vacuum tube in one of those holes sucking that shit out. Did they ever, I mean, was your weight issue considered glandular, or just your body wasn't able to kickstart your metabolism to burn all this shit off?
I think my metabolism was so slow that it wasn't able to burn anything off. From the time that my weight was 491 pounds to I was able to drop down to 454 the day of the surgery, I literally went from, on all that time, I was basically eating once a day.
Oof.
And I was eating roughly 700 calories a day.
He was just hangry and a bitch to be around, wasn't he?
Honestly, yes.
You can throw him under the bus. It's okay.
Well, no, because he'll admit he was too. He would get testy, and
I guess when you're going from, let's say, the quote-unquote 3,000 to 4,000 calories a day, whatever, down to literally
700.
Literally eating nothing. I mean, it was when your body's aching all the time because you're not putting in enough nutrients or anything in there. You're not getting protein, so your muscles are burning constantly. And
Yeah.
basically, when I first started this, I had to go see like an endocrinologist and all that fun stuff. I had to see a psychiatrist, dietitians, and
Why a psychiatrist?
to see if you're mentally ready for this, to make sure you're not a person who's a surgery chaser that gets off on
I didn't think of
they
that.
wanted to make sure that he was mentally prepared for what's coming.
be one of those people that get off on just having surgery after surgery, being one of those people, and just to see, like my wife said, if you're mentally prepared and, this is something that you really...
They're going to stick to.
That's a weird fucking hang up. I love to be cut on so I can show people my scars and get attention.
Yeah, so I mean, basically I was lying to my psychiatrist because she was asking, how things were going. Well, I see you're losing weight, or how are you doing that? And I know if I told them, I'm down to eating 700 calories a day, I'm eating once a day, and blah, 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 I know I wouldn't have been able to be green lighted to say, you can have the surgery. They probably would have pushed it off even longer. And I understand what I did was, wrong.
Well, it's not wrong because, I mean, all these fucking Hollywood types that are always trying to be all just popping with muscles everywhere. Every dude that was in either one of those Magic Mike movies, to hear them talk about what they put themselves through for that, like Channing Tatum. He said that he was eating like a small breakfast and 2 or 3 salads a day and working out twice a day, and he was just bitter. You know, so when I joke about people getting hangry, like my old man, if you don't feed him, gets fucking pissed. He is a bitch to be around when he doesn't have food. I have seen it happen on family vacations where like we're trying to save money, so she's got him on 2 meals a day. He's like, I just want something to fucking eat. You know? But that's what they do. They kill themselves by chopping their diet in half to like 1,000 or fewer calories and working out twice a day. So I wouldn't say what you're doing is wrong. It's extreme, but that's the weird lengths that people go to get down into this idealized body shape that they glorify in all these ads.
Well, I guess for me, I mean, the quote unquote, all they wanted me to do was to lose a pound and to keep it off. They didn't want to see, a roller coaster of, well, you can lose 5 pounds, but then you gain 7 on your next weigh in, or you lose 12 and then you gain back. So, I mean, they just wanted you to see if you could lose and, keep the weight off or maintain it or whatever you had to do. But, I mean, starving myself all the time, it was hard. Before the surgery, I ended up, like I said earlier, giving up like deep fried foods, fast foods, pastries, cookies, anything that's really bad. And then I got guys, that are like, well, I shouldn't be eating this around you. I'm like, well, they're enjoying, whatever they got. And it's like, it doesn't bother me anymore.
Yeah.
It literally doesn't.
Because now it's been so much time. Now, the endocrinologist, did they ever like look at your thyroid as part of the issue?
Mm-hmm.
Yep. It was normal. It was purely normal.
They didn't ever maybe think about putting you on like a Synthroid to kickstart it. I mean, trying to put somebody into hyperthyroidism on purpose to see if it'll help an extreme weight shift, I guess, is probably not what's considered medically recommended. But, I mean, sometimes they try radical shit and they find out it works or it doesn't work. Like, Viagra was supposed to be a heart pill and it didn't do what they designed it to do. And then they found out it gave people boners. And then they're like, well, hey, we were just about to lose millions in R&D on a pill for hearts that doesn't work. But it gets old men hard. So fucking hey, here we go. Here's the cash cow.
Yeah, I hear you. No, they never went to that extremes. But I mean, they were extremely, positive that this surgery would be a life-changing thing for me, which it was. It's been a lot of struggles, which I still, to this day, struggle.
With the eating and such.
With eating, trying new foods, because everything affects me differently. And if I'm going to be trying new foods, I mean, without being gross, I got to be around a bathroom because I don't know if I'm going to be, fine or I'm going to be in there for
Hours.
2 hours going to the bathroom constantly because it doesn't.
There's nothing wrong with. I have 2 episodes devoted entirely to poop stories, so you don't have to worry about grossing out this audience.
But I mean, it's to the point where I don't try new things unless I'm, around home. Just so I can see how it's going to affect my body.
Yeah.
I mean, my body has changed so much now that one time I could eat, a regular meat sandwich with untoasted bread and I would be totally fine. And then the next time I'll eat the exact same sandwich and I'll just get sick where I'll be throwing up because it reacts with my body weird or it gets stuck in my throat. And it's... with all the foods that that I've changed, it's still a struggle to this day.
Would you do it again?
95% of me says yes. That other 5% is with all the struggles that I have. Like, since with my job, during the winter, I'm a plow driver, and it's to the point that with the plow people that I'm with, we don't stop and take lunch breaks or whatever. We just keep plowing and we eat whatever we have, and then it's kind of hard to eat like a bowl of pasta or whatever you have, because with the truck I have, there's a lot of levers, there's a lot of things to do in that truck as I'm driving. I mean, you can't try to take a fork full of whatever. So basically whatever I eat during the winter is in the pouch of my hooded sweatshirt. And it usually pertains to like cereal or beef jerky or something that'll fit in there that I can eat. Otherwise, so during the winter I really struggle trying to find, the protein requirements that my body needs now, because I need like 80 grams plus of protein a day.
What if you get it through a shake?
I take shakes every day just to try to supplement off of what I eat. Otherwise, there's no way physically I could eat 80 grams of protein in a day.
All right. Now, long-term prognosis, did they give like a glass ceiling of where the weight loss would kind of level out and that would be it?
They said within the first year of your surgery is going to be your biggest weight loss that you're going to see, which they were pretty shocked on how much I lost in the first year. But now, within the last, would you say 3 months?
3 months.
I've been plateaued at 275. My goal was to hit 250, which they said, was very doable. It could take some time and a lot more effort, but I mean, it's doable.
I'd say 275 is pretty damn good weight where you're at, because, I mean, if I saw you out of the corner of my eye, I didn't even fucking recognize you.
Well, considering when you're used to seeing a bowling ball compared to, let's say, a green bean, I mean, yeah, that's...
You'd see, but you never seemed like you were that big to me. I mean, I get, we all called you Big Mark because you were always like the husky guy, but, I mean, seeing you at your biggest, I guess it didn't really... You look back at the side-by-side with you walking down the aisle at the wedding, and it's just like, my fucking jaw dropped. I'm like, he didn't seem like he was that big to me.
Well, I guess once you've seen me all the time, it became, I don't want to say normal, but it became something that you're used to seeing. And then
right.
Even now, I don't like looking at that picture to see what I was, because I literally looked like I said, a bowling ball with a zit for a head, because, I mean, I was just huge.
Well, and this is where I'm going to wrap it here. I guess, if anything, I would say you've always got that photo to reaffirm to you that you made the right decision and that the struggle was worth it because of where you're at now. So should at any point you feel like you're kind of on the fence, like, God damn, did I really go too far? I mean, you've got that to prove to yourself that you made a decision that's going to affect you and that you're going to be around.
Yep. Yeah, because I got to be around for my wife and kids, so I mean, even on days when you're miserable and you can't eat, I'd rather have you miserable not eating than us standing around your fucking casket and talking about you in past tense, brother. I hear you. I appreciate it.
Interact with the show on Twitter at What Do We Call It? That is at What Do We Call It? You can find us on Facebook at facebook.com/groups/What Do We Call It podcast show. For the What Do We Call It podcast, I'm Jmann.
I'm Mark.
And that's the end.